I wasn't bullied, I was ignored, and that hurt even more. When I was a kid, people didn't bully me. When I was growing up, I wasn't the kid everyone made fun of. I wasn't bullied in the way you see in movies. What happened to me was quieter than that. People simply forgot I was there. In class, teachers sometimes skipped my name during attendance. Not on purpose, just because I never spoke loud enough for them to remember me. At lunch, I sat at the end of the table. I listened to conversations I was never part of. I laughed at jokes that weren't meant for me. I became really good at being invisible. At home, life was calm but distant. My parents worked long hours. They were good people, just tired people. When they came home, they wanted silence, and I learned to give them that. So I stayed in my room. I stayed quiet. I stayed out of the way. But inside my head, everything was loud. I had dreams I didn't know how to explain. Not dreams about being famous, not dreams about being rich. I just wanted my life to matter. Every night I opened an old notebook I kept under my bed. I didn't write homework in it. I didn't write stories either. I wrote ideas. Ideas about helping people. Ideas about creating something that could change lives. Ideas about proving that even quiet kids could do loud things in the world. For a long time, those ideas were only mine. Until one day, in middle school, I decided to tell someone. We were sitting on the steps outside the school building. The bell had just rung and everyone was rushing home. I stayed behind with a boy from my class. He wasn't my friend. But he wasn't my enemy either. He was just there. And for some reason, I felt brave that day. I told him, one day I want to do something important. I don't know what yet, but I want my life to mean something. He looked at me like I had just told a joke. Then he laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly, just enough to hurt. You? He said. You barely talk in class. How are you going to do anything big? I laughed too. Pretended it didn't matter. But that night, when I went home, I tore a page out of my notebook. Not because I stopped dreaming, but because I stopped sharing my dreams. From that day on, I kept everything inside. Years passed. Middle school turned into high school. My classmates grew louder. I grew quieter. But something inside me changed. I stopped waiting to be noticed, and I started preparing. While other kids hung out after school, I went home and learned. I watched videos about people who started with nothing. I read about inventors, creators, leaders, people who were ignored once and remembered later. I practiced skills nobody around me cared about. Sometimes I didn't even know why I was learning them. I just felt that one day I would need them. Most nights I stayed up later than I should have. Not because I was playing games, not because I was texting friends, but because I was building a future in my head. There were nights when I felt stupid. Nights when I asked myself, why am I even trying? No one believed in me. No one asked about my goals. No one expected anything from me. And sometimes that hurt more than being hated. One night, I stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized myself. I looked tired. I looked small. I looked invisible. And I asked out loud, will anyone ever see me? The room stayed quiet. But then I said something else. Something I had never said before. Even if no one ever sees me, I will. From that moment on, I made a promise to myself. I promised that I would keep going, even when nobody clapped, even when nobody noticed, even when nobody cared. Because one day, I wanted to prove that the quietest person in the room could have the loudest impact on the world. And I had no idea yet. But that promise was about to change everything. That promise was about to change everything.